What's up, guys? Welcome to my developer studio, where we are striving to be developers of today but pioneers of tomorrow. In today's video, we're going to be building this modern to-do list application. And before we get right into the build, I want to give you a brief rundown of what this application does. So starting off with the form on the top left, here we can add categories. So we'll go ahead and add one called delete me. Perfect. Now let's add some to-dos to this delete me one. Let's add one more. Delete me two. Okay, perfect. So now that we've added a category and some to-dos that are associated to this category, let's go ahead and explore these actions on the cards. So this edit icon obviously allows us to edit. So let's go ahead and write edited. So we can see that it actually modified the card, and we all know what this delete icon does. It basically deletes the card that we click on. And before I delete this last delete me, I want to show you some other features. So here on the sidebar, if we were to click on the categories, we can see that we can filter by each category, so we can narrow down what we're trying to view. And right here where it says you are currently viewing delete me, we have the option of deleting this entire category and all the to-dos associated with it. So let's go ahead and click that, and we see that now it's gone and it has selected the view all tab again, so we can go back to the main area. And that is basically the entire scope of this application. So let's get right into the build. Alrighty, so I'm gonna have this layout throughout the entire video. Here we have the files, the place where we're gonna edit our code, or HTML, Markdown, CSS, whatever you want to call it. And on the right, we have the steps to success to building this application. So first off, you must create an index.html, main.css, reset.cs, and main.js. I have already created those to save some time, but go ahead and create those and pause the video. Now we're going to go ahead and create an HTML5 boilerplate. So we're going to go exclamation, enter, and that does that for us. Now let's call this a to-do list application. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and link our CSS in this. Link main.css, and right above that one, we're going to link the reset.css. And we're also going to be bringing in Font Awesome. So let me go ahead and get that link real quick, and I'll leave everything down below in the description so you guys just can copy it. Perfect. Now let's go ahead and link our script, our main.js. So our script source, then main.js. Perfect. We have all that down and we're ready to go. So now we can go ahead and go to our reset and copy this mayor's reset from the link I'm going to leave below down in the description. So you'll copy that, and we already imported it, so we're good to go. And then we're going to add some global styles right here. I already added them for the sake of time. I don't want to waste your guys' time. I want to get straight to the point, and give you what you need so you can get right out of here and build up that portfolio. So we added this. We added some root to the root some colors, and to all elements we added a box size in border box. We took off the padding and the margin. We also set a font size of 62.5%, which is equal to 10 pixels. And I mainly did that because I don't want to do math, so it's easier to set the pixels in rem, not having to multiply 16 pixels times whatever. So now in the body, I went ahead and set a background color, the color of the text we're going to be using, the font family, the line height, and the padding, which is going to be this area right here that pushes this app content inwards. Okay, and we also added a height of 100 view height. Make sure to import this font up here because the default fonts are pretty crappy. And now we can get to creating our app container. So let's go ahead and create a div with a class of app. Perfect. And we can go style that app container now that we're here. So we'll close this reset, main.css. And like I said, I do not want to waste your guys' time typing stuff out. So I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste, and I'll explain along the way. So here we said display grid template columns, 225 pixels for the sidebar, and 1 FR for the entire content area. Then we have a border radius, 16 pixels, overflow hidden, and a height of 100%. This line right here is setting 225 pixels for this width, and then 1 FR for the entire width of this. So now that we have that, we can go ahead and save, and we can move on to creating the sidebar. So inside of this, we're going to have an aside with a class of sidebar. Inside of that, we're going to have a header tag with the class of header. Okay, perfect. And now inside of that, we're going to have an h1 with a class of title. Oh, header dash title. And we're gonna say my categories. Okay. Now below that, we're gonna have a form with a class of sidebar dash form. We'll take away the action, and we're gonna add a data attribute with call data dash new dash category dash form. Perfect. Now inside of that, we're gonna have a div with the class of form dash control, and inside of that, we're going to have an input with a type of text, and we're gonna have a placeholder of enter category, and we're gonna have a data attribute called new dash category, and not form but input. Perfect. Now we're gonna go ahead and add a button right below that, button with a class of btn and btn dash primary. Perfect. And inside of that, we're going to have an icon. So let me just go ahead and copy it, save some time, copy that, and we'll add some text. We'll say add category. Let's go ahead and save that. Let's see what we have going. Perfect. We see that we have that right there. And right below this form, we're going to have, actually right below the header, we're going to have an unordered list with a class of sidebar dash list. And this sidebar list is going to have a data attribute of categories, because this is where we're going to inject the categories that we have. Now, each list item is going to have a class of sidebar dash item, and we're going to create 3 of them. This first one is going to be all categories, and the second one is going to be work, and we're going to have a, oh, my bad, we're going to have to input inside of that. It's going to be a type color, and we're going to have a class, and we're going to do sidebar dash color. Perfect. And the second one, the third one actually is going to be school. We're going to do an input type color. I forgot, that's why I don't do the color, it does the whole name. We'll do class sidebar dash color. Perfect. So we're basically done with the HTML of this application on the sidebar part. So now let's go ahead and go to the main.css so we can start styling the sidebar. So first off, I'm going to copy this right here. This is going to be one of the utility classes that we have, and the only one since this application isn't that big. So we're going to have a button, and it's gonna have a background of primary color, which is that dark black, and the color is gonna be a light color, which is the whitish one we have. And we're gonna display inline block. We're gonna add some padding to it, make it nice, have some nice white space in there. Cursor pointer, border radius of 5 pixels, and a border none. On hover, we're gonna scale that button down by 0.02. And the button primary is basically the same color, but I did this in case you wanted to do your own color. So let's go ahead and save that and see what it does. As you can see, we have this button right here, which is very alike to that. So now let's go ahead and style the header portion of this application. So I'm going to go ahead and copy those and run you through that. So right here we have a header, and we're going to do a color of primary color, which is going to be that dark black. We're going to do padding of 1.6 rem around the header area, and then we're going to do position sticky and then top 0, because we want this part to always be at the top no matter if we scroll. And then the header title is going to be font size 2 rem, font weight bold, margin 10 pixels, top and bottom, and 0 left and right. And this currently viewing, we currently don't have, but we will have it in this area right here. And if you can tell, these two headers are the exact same. So we're going to be reusing some of the classes. So let's go ahead and save that and see what it gives us. Nice. Nice, it's looking much better. So now moving on to the sidebar form, which is inside the header that we just styled. Let me get those real quick. So we're going to do this and this right below this. Let's go ahead and scroll. And for the sidebar form, that form control, we're going to add a margin top and bottom of 10 pixels. So doing that, we'll have some space between this and this button. Okay, perfect. Now the sidebar input, we want to get rid of that border. We're going to make it width 100%, padding 3 pixels, font size 16 pixels, and the background color transparent. So I'll give you a quick look of what that looks before we beautify it. The focus, I want to show you the focus state. So this ugly blue color, I'm just going to remove it, but in the real world, it's kind of good to implement that. And the sidebar button, we're going to go ahead and make that a width of 100% as well. Let's save, and boom, beautified. So now moving on to the sidebar list. Let me go ahead and get those real quick so we can run through them. Okay, so the sidebar list, we're going to give it a padding of 1.6 rem, so it can be spaced around like this one. We're going to push it over here, and then we're going to give it a display inline flex. We're going to align item center so we can have that vertical centering. We're going to give width 100%, and we need this width for this margin left auto to work down here. So I'll get to that in a bit. We're going to have margin 16 pixels top and bottom, left and right 0. We're going to do cursor pointer, font size 1.7 D5 rem. And this is for the sidebar item itself, which would be this. And for the active state, we're just going to make that bold. So when we have it selected, it's bold. And then sidebar item first child, which would be this one right here, we're going to take off that margin on the top because it's a bit too much space for me. So now for the sidebar color, which is this color selector right here, input, we're going to do border none with 25 pixels, margin left auto, which as you see right now, it's right next to it. Well, the margin left auto, because we're using flex, we're going to be able to occupy as much margin to the left as we can, and that'll push it to the right. So now cursor pointer, as the moment it doesn't have one, we don't know we can select it. So let's go ahead and save that. And there you go. It is looking good. Okay, now that we have finished this sidebar right here, let's go ahead and move on to the create main area part. So let's go to the index.html, and right below this aside, which is a sidebar, we're going to create a main tag with a class of main. Perfect. And inside of this, we are going to have a header, just like we had up top in the sidebar. So let's do a header with a class of header. Let's do a div with no class, like this. And then h1 with a class of header dash title. We'll say welcome back. We'll use a strong tag, developer studio. Right below that, we'll do a div with a class of currently viewing. And we'll also add a data attribute to this, because we'll need to inject the currently viewing section into this. So currently dash viewing. Perfect. And we'll say you are currently viewing all categories. Okay, perfect. Now below this div right here, the reason we have this is because we're going to display flex this header, and we want to display flex the div right here because we want this to remain together. So below this div, let's go ahead and add a form with a class of create dash to do dash form. And to that, we're going to remove the action. We don't really need it. To the end of this, we're going to add an attribute to it. So data dash new dash to do dash form. Perfect. Now inside of this, we'll head and do a form control. And we'll do a select. And we need to take these off. We're not going to be using that. To select, we'll add a data attribute, data.new dash to do dash select, and we'll make this required. Okay. And to select, one of the options we're going to have for now, the value is going to be blank, and we're going to do all categories. Perfect, like this. And right below that, we're going to have another form control, form dash control, and we're going to have an input that's going to be of type text, and this is going to have a data attribute of data dash new dash to do dash input. It's going to have a placeholder of enter to do, and we're going to require that. So like that. Basically, that'll be it for that, for the inputs. So now we need a button with a class of btn dash primary, and inside of that, we're going to have an icon. So let me just go ahead and copy and paste that. Like that, and we'll do add to do. Now let's see what that's looking like. There we go. We have this header title looking nice because of the classes that we already had. You are currently viewing. We have that because of this right here that we added the styles earlier. And now we have this form. So we'll need to style this form up, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a comment right here. This is going to be a create to do form. And right below this one, we're going to have the edit to do form. And we're basically going to copy this entire form and just change some of the values of properties right here. So we're going to change this to edit to do form. This one's data dash edit to do form from control data dash edit to do select. Form controls the same. Data dash edit to do input. Perfect. And right here we'll take this icon off and we'll do save. Now let's see what that gives us. Perfect. It just gives us another form. These forms will not be toggled at the same time. They will be toggled individually. When one's not active, the other's active, and vice versa. So now that we've added the main area and stuff like that, let's go ahead and add some CSS. Okay, so for the main area, we need the header right here and this form to be next to each other. So let's go ahead and do this to the header right here. So the main area, we're gonna add these styles right here. Let's get that. We're gonna do background color, the light color, overflow Y, scroll. That's gonna be for the main area. If we have a lot of to-dos, we'll be able to scroll up and down. The WebKit scroll bar, the one that would appear in this area right here, it'll be removed. And for the header, you see that we did main.header because we don't want it to affect the sidebar header. So we did this, and we did display flex because we want the text on the left to be on the left and the text and the form to be on the right. So that's why we added this justify content space between and then the align item center. Saving that, you'll see that we have it like this, but it's currently not looking right because we have both to do forms and it's doing space between all three of these items. We just wanted to space between two of these items, so we need to hide one of them. So we'll do that in the next line right here. So let's copy this. Let's copy this comment right here. Perfect. And we're gonna hide the edit to do form. Boom. Hiding that, you can see now that this form is pushed as far right as possible. Now, I'm going to go ahead and copy these styles. These are a bit lengthy. I didn't really want to focus on, making this thing scalable or something. I really want to focus on the JavaScript side of this because that's where it gets really fun. So for this create to do form input and the input in the edit to do form and the select in the create to do form and the edit to do form select, we're going to take border 0 with 100%, padding 3 pixels, top and bottom, left and right 0, and a font size of 16 pixels. We're going to do background color transparent to get rid of this background color right there on both of these things and the border. The focus state, that blue right here, and that blue that you just saw, we're going to take that off with these lines right here and the input select, and under focus state we're going to do outline none. So now on the create to do form and the edit to do form, we're going to do display flex, justify content space between, align items flex end. We're going to do flex 0.8. The flex 0.8 basically means like 80% of the width. So what this is going to do with the display flex, all these are going to come in line with each other. We're going to have space between it and it's going to look nice. So we'll go ahead and save that, and boom, that is looking nice. And I believe I will need to add this one at the end over here because that is conflicting right there. Perfect. And you see where that underline came from for the input on both forms, the edit to do form and the create to do form. We're gonna add that border bottom on the input of 1 pixel and a width 350 pixels for that entire input. So that's 350 pixels. It's not responsive, so I am on a wider monitor, so that's why it's looking like this, but on the laptop it will look fine. And now that we have this, we can go ahead and move to the last section, the cards. So in the HTML, in the main, right below the header, we're going to do a section with a class of to-dos dash container. We're going to give it a data attribute of data dash cards. And inside of that, we're going to create a div with a class of to-do. And we're going to have some inline styles for that. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab those real quick. So it wasn't too much. It wasn't necessary to copy it, but I just did. And inside of this div, we're going to have a div with the to-do dash tag. And this one is going to have a bit more of a style, inline style. And the reason we're doing the inline style is because in our main.css, we didn't add the style for a reason that we're going to be, when we render these to-dos, we're going to be rendering it in JavaScript, and we are going to be using the value in JavaScript in here in order to render those dynamic colors. So we have this, we'll enter that, and we'll go ahead and put work in here. Now right below that, we'll give it a P, class of to-do dash description, and we'll do lorem 13, perfect. And right below that, we'll do a div with a class of to-do dash actions, and I'm gonna go ahead and copy the icons and paste them in there, and we'll go ahead and save that. And you can see we have an ugly wide looking card, but well, that is going to be solved with step 6. So let's go ahead and style some cards. So for the cards, let's go ahead and first focus on the container. So the to-dos container, we're going to display grid template columns, repeat 4, 1FR. So basically 4 columns of 1FR each. The grid auto rows, max content. We're going to give it a gap of 20 pixels between each one of those, and a padding of 1.6 rem all around this, so we can get that space between here and here. So we'll go ahead and do that, and boom, that looks nice. So let's go ahead and duplicate this real quick 4 times so we can see how it's working. And perfect. So now for the to-do, I'm gonna copy these. So I copied these, I pasted these in here. So for the to-do, the background, we're going to add that background color of white. As you can see at the moment, it's camouflaged. We're going to give it a color of primary color, that blackish one, and we're going to give it border top 6 pixels solid. And we didn't add a color because remember we added in the HTML. We're going to give it a border radius so it's nice and curved. We're going to give it a box shadow so it looks like it's standing out a bit. We're going to give it a padding 20 pixels so we can push this content inward a bit. We're going to display flex direction column, and align items flex start. If we go ahead and save that, you can see now we have this, which is looking way better. Now for the to-do tag and to-do description, we'll go ahead and add that font size of 1.6 rem, padding 0.5 rem, 2.5 rem left and right, border radius 5 pixels, and margin bottom 8 pixels. So if we go ahead and save that, we will see that we have padding here, we have a border, we have an enlarged font size, and we have some margin bottom right here. So now for the last one, to do description, right here, font size 1.6 rem, margin, top 1 rem, right 0, bottom 2 rem, and left 0. So if we save that, increase font size, we have more spacing, and we have that word break. Now for the last section, which is the actions, and paste them right below this. We have the to-do actions. We're going to do margin top. That will push these all the way down below, even if the content on these differ. So I want to really emphasize what that margin does. So let me go ahead and delete this. Let's do lorem 20. Save that. And I want to emphasize that. See how here it's at the bottom because it's getting pushed, but here it's not. So that's what our margin top does. As soon as we add that, let me add that individually so you can see that. Boom, all the way at the bottom. Now, to each icon in there, we want to increase the font size. We want to put some margin between those so they're not so close to each other. We want to give it some opacity so we can lower the focus on the icons and more on the to-dos. And then opacity 0.25, that's what that does. And then the cursor pointer so we can tell the user that they can hover over that and click it. So now that we have that, that is looking beautiful. And we have officially completed the user interface of this application. Next video, we will be getting into the JavaScript, and that will be a lot funner than this. Catch you in the next video.